Over the years, Street Fighter IV has been home to many things that fighting game fans have come to cherish. Iconic moments at majors, big damage combos, colourful character designs, and some questionable animation quality. But there's one other aspect of these games that can rear its head from time to time. They're kind of buggy. Over the past few days, I've been researching the many glitches that Street Fighter IV, along with its children, have to offer, with our goal being to bear witness to their depravity. Jokes aside, there are both major and minor glitches that can be found in these titles, so while not all of them will blow you away, I thought it would be fun to include them. Also, I'm not counting Infinite since I don't personally view them as glitches per se, but they're definitely in the game if you know where to look. Throughout the video, I will be making use of external footage from other channels when appropriate to showcase some of these exploits. Lord knows I lack the execution to perform all of these glitches myself, so if you would like to learn more, check the description to find a full list of video credits. With that being said, make sure to fill up that ultra bar, dear viewer, as we crack the enigma that is Street Fighter IV glitches. Starting off with vanilla Street Fighter IV, this first offering is something I'm not even sure is a glitch, but it definitely looks like one. Head over to training mode with any characters of your choosing and make sure to turn on the dummy record feature. As soon as you've highlighted this, unpause, hold down and pause again. This process has to be executed extremely quickly, as if you take too long, the enemy will perform a regular crouch. If you get it just right, you'll be able to see some motion blur on the dummy as they begin to crouch. Once you go back to normal, you'll notice that something is going wrong, but it gets even wilder if you jump over them. As far as I can tell, the recording is forcing the training dummy to switch between a standing and crouching state almost instantly. If you ever want to return to the initial animation, all you have to do is just knock the enemy down. Simple. As no character is meant to switch between standing and crouching this quickly, the results look bizarre, and my favorite character to do this on is Rufus. His rotund proportions make him look like an analog horror demon, especially if you can force him to look in the wrong direction. There's not much more to it than that, but as one of the first unintentional behaviors I remember seeing in a game as a kid, this technique has a special place in my heart. No Street Fighter fan is a stranger to Ken, as ever since the series' humble origins in the 80s, he's been there to fight alongside Ryu. Much to the pleasure of Ken fans around the world, he was fairly common in tournament play, but if you were into the seedier side of Street Fighter IV, this next glitch is something you may remember. If Ken's Ultra Combo and Hadouken simultaneously hit the enemy, they will be pushed out of the animation, and if they attempt to punish it with a super, this happens. What's happening here is Ken's Ultra animation is playing in super slow motion, whereas the enemy's animation has been sped up. I can't explain why Ken is moving so slowly, but I believe the glitch's cause relates to the opponent being desynced, if you will. It takes much preparation too, as Ken needs to have enough meter to not only FADC out of the fireball, but also to EX Tatsu Fort to outrun it, and the other character needs full meter for their super. On top of this, initiating the glitch solo is very, very difficult, and as it's like a nightmarish, ultra-precise version of patting your head while rubbing your stomach, I simply wasn't able to pull it off. Seeing a bug this noticeable in such a mainstream fighting game tickles my brain in all the right places, although Capcom rightfully removed it in future revisions by making projectiles phase through the enemy once Ken's Ultra has connected. This glitch may have had a really short lifespan, but it'll never not be hilarious. Moving on to something that I can actually do now, Akuma's seizure is one of the most infamous glitches in Street Fighter IV history, and as the name implies, it involves everyone's favorite secret final boss. When fighting Seth, make Akuma forward jump and do his EX Air Fireball. Right before this, Seth has to slightly walk backwards and input his EX Lightning Legs. If spaced correctly, Seth will strike Akuma and then take damage from the second Air Fireball, preventing the animation from continuing. Since this isn't intended, Akuma's animation for when he takes damage plays out, despite him being totally fine. However, this will only play out if Akuma takes damage after spinning in place, so pinpoint accuracy is key. Since the logic behind this glitch involves Seth's animation being interrupted by a fireball, it's theoretically possible for other fighters to experience this animation, but in reality, pulling this off would require near frame-perfect timing and spacing. As a result, I couldn't find any recordings of characters who were not Akuma or Rose being involved during my research. I'd be lying if I said this glitch was earth-shaking, but if you could overcome its strict nature, it's pretty fun to try out in training mode. In a similar fashion to Ken's Ultra Desync, and Bison has one too. Normally, his Ultra Combo is a devastating close-range strike, making it great to use as a punishment tool, but it'll sadly lose to fireballs. But what if the fireball is coming from behind him? If this happens to make contact as the cinematic portion of Bison's animation initiates, he returns to normal, but I can't say the same for poor Rose. Now that I think about it, the animators behind this Ultra did a great job at making it appear natural, because when the veil is lifted, we as the audience get to see how wonky it looks when the camera doesn't change. Akuma's EX Air Fireballs can also be used for the glitch, and since they come from above, they add a whole new directional layer. This method is also leagues easier than using Rose, so my poor hands are forever grateful to Akuma. The lengthy animation desync is always enjoyable to watch, but honestly, that's pretty much it. This is the type of straightforward glitch that quickly fixes itself, but I'm still a big fan. If you were hoping for some character variety, I hate to disappoint because we're once again focusing on Rose and Akuma. What is it with them in glitches anyway? As the Rose player, attempting to call out Akuma's air movements with your EX Soul Throw isn't a bad idea. The move travels very far and leads to decent damage, so why not? Well, if EX Soul Throw and the first of Akuma's EX Air Fireballs connects when both fighters are close to the ground, yet another desync can happen. This one sends Akuma flying towards Rose like a torpedo, and it reminds me of when you get hit by Dante's Killer Bee in Marvel vs. Capcom 3. As with the other desyncs, this is also highly specific, and there's very little room for error. If you're too late, Rose gets hit by the fireballs, but if you're too early, Akuma gets grabbed as intended. Perfectly lining up these characters and ensuring that their attacks begin on specific frames means that you'll have to try again, and again if you want to do this glitch for yourself. I spent a good 20 to 30 minutes experimenting in training mode to see if there was a consistent setup for this, but I came up with nothing. With how strict these desyncs can be, it's no wonder that the developers didn't catch them during debugging, so I totally see how these made their way into the final game. I kind of wish this lasted for longer or had some gameplay implications because even though it looks really cool, I feel that the payoff isn't worth all the effort. Now that I'm fiending for something much simpler, the idea of grounded crossunders sounds like a glass of water in the desert. A common offensive method you'll find in virtually all fighting games is the crossunder. They can be used to force the enemy into ambiguous situations where you as the aggressor can choose which side to strike from. To say that these are useful would be a massive understatement, but what if you want to mess with your enemy's sense of direction on the ground? Thanks to quirks involving character hitboxes and positioning, certain attacks will cause the initiator to literally phase through their opponent. The easiest one to demonstrate involves Ryu sweeping E Honda and then dashing through the sumo wrestler to switch sides, even when mid-screen. Combining these with focus attacks, special moves, and whatever else you can think of leads to some really unpredictable situations, and if the opponent isn't ready, they can be punished big time. Most, if not all characters have ways to initiate these cross-unders, but I would only recommend them for the craziest of players. As far as I know, grounded cross-unders never took off as a crucial part of Street Fighter 4's meta, with certain fighters having access to god-like vortex setups going forward. In addition to this, most of them either don't do any damage, cost considerable resources, or lead to outcomes that aren't particularly useful. I mean, this looks cool, but as Viper is now in the corner, it's not her best use of meter here. However, my favorite of the bunch is how Zangief can literally walk over Blanca's coward crouch, albeit in a pretty jank-looking way. The sky is the limit for grounded crossunders, as there are potentially hundreds, if not thousands of ways to initiate these, and as I was able to pull them off with ease, they're definitely one of my favorite glitches so far. Going back to a technique that takes supreme precision, stun combos are exactly what they sound like, a way for you to continue combos when the enemy is stunned. One of Street Fighter 4's rules is that when dizzy, any attack will take you out of this state. From a simple crouching jab to an elaborate ultra combo, the victim will break free from seeing stars when they return to neutral. But due to an oddity with how stuns are initiated, there are a few frames where stunned enemies can be attacked yet remain dizzy. The most consistent method to pull this off, which mind you is still really challenging, involves stunning the opponent with a special move and then quickly cancelling into a super. If performed correctly, the dizzy VFX will appear over the enemy's head as they're being attacked, and this kind of reminds me of Third Strike. That game lets you combo stunned aerial enemies, and once they fall to the ground, they still remain dizzy, allowing for consistent follow-ups. For one reason or another, this was removed from Street Fighter 4, so if you want it back, this glitch is a must. My favorite application of stun combos involves Abel's super, as the opponent fails to animate properly when brought to the corner. I'm not 100% sure why this happens, but it looks absolutely brilliant. With how specific and resource-intensive stun combos can be, you'll really only see them in combo videos though. If you get the enemy dizzy in a real match, you might as well whiff some special moves and finish the combo normally to build meter, but if you're feeling ballsy and a full meter, definitely go for a stun combo. They're not very common, and you'll most likely earn the respect of those around you. At least I think you will. We've finally made it into Super Street Fighter 4 territory, and what better way to start than with one of its additional fighters? Originating from Final Fight, Cody is now a convict who spends his time throwing rocks at Japanese schoolgirls, but did you know that he has the power of teleportation? If you end a round with his knife throw and then perform Ultra 1 from full screen right before the knife hits, the enemy will be knocked out from a stab to the ribs, but Cody will instant transmission right in front of them to initiate his cutscene. This only works if the projectile is what ends the round, and I'm happy that this is the case. If it wasn't, then Cody would have a low risk Ultra confirm from anywhere on the screen. You may think that this would work with Badstone, and yeah, you would be right, as this is exactly the case because the rock also goes full screen. Attempting this bug with Ultra 2 shows us that it doesn't work, so there has to be something within Ultra 1's programming that causes it, and I suspect it's related to how the cutscene trigger functions when the enemy is in hit stun. Since they're theoretically in a state where follow-up attacks can connect, the game notices that Cody has activated his Ultra and decides to let it play out. This is just my speculation, mind you, but whatever the case may be, Cody's teleportation is one of Super Street Fighter 4's most iconic exploits. Hailing from the very first Street Fighter title, Adon is here to prove that his Muay Thai offerings are far superior to whatever Sagat can showcase. Who needs respect, honor, and a cool eye patch anyway? Well, we're about to turn Adon's cocky demeanor against him, as if you can time a counter hit just right, his super combo will fail to connect. The defender's strike has to be inputted before the third hit of Adon's super makes contact, as spacing it incorrectly will lead to Guile spending the week in the ER. Before I started working on this video, I had never seen anything like this in Street Fighter 4, and after watching Desk's video about legacy glitches, we can see that it still exists within Ultra via Edition Select. This leads me to believe that specifically the third hit of Adon's super is victim to a programming error, one that makes it so enemies can attack through it. If you try to do this to any other super, it's lights out, so I assume some overworked programmer fell asleep at his desk and hit the wrong key with his forehead when designing Adon. Realistically, I'm sure that this will never be used to great effect in a real match, as there's no way that Adon players will randomly throw out a super in neutral. Even if they do, the counter hit timing is quite strict, and on top of that, you would still take damage anyway as the defender. This bug may be inconsequential, but at least it gave me the chance to talk about Adon, as we haven't seen him in a while in the series. For all the Street Fighter 3 fans, Ibuki is here to show off a confusing looking VFX bug, one that had me scratching my head when I first saw it. Eagle-eyed viewers will notice that despite the second hit of Ibuki's Ultra 2 connecting as a counter hit, the enemy seems to block it. Does this mean that there's a way to make her Ultra unblockable? Sadly, no. What's really happening here is that if the second hit of Ultra 2 connects as a counter hit, the game incorrectly displays the blue VFX associated with blocking. If it lands normally, the regular orange and white VFX renders instead. This glitch isn't anything mind-blowing, but what I find most interesting is that it carried over to Ultra Street Fighter 4, much like the Adon bug. Perhaps Capcom didn't want to cause other bugs by going into Street Fighter 4's code and fixing it, or maybe they just didn't know about it? Either way, I'm not quite sure of the specifics behind this bug's properties, but it does look pretty interesting. Ibuki saw how much attention Rose and Akuma were getting earlier and decided that she wanted a piece of the pie too, so here's another glitch with our favorite ninja girl. As one of the lucky few who possesses air throws, Ibuki can use hers to catch aerial opponents and throw them down to the ground in style. She doesn't have much range though, so it's challenging to consistently land it. However, Ibuki more than makes up for it, as her air throw has not one, but two glitches associated with it. What's intended to happen is that the air throw will strike the enemy 4 times for a total of 150 damage, but if you do it somewhat low to the ground, the final hit fails to connect, reducing the damage to 90. It gets even crazier if you perform the air throw at the lowest possible position, as this will reduce the damage to 0. That's right, Ibuki's air throw literally does nothing if you do it too low to the ground. I spent quite some time attempting to replicate this in training mode, but for some reason I just couldn't hit it once. You pretty much have to be super low to the ground for the glitch to trigger, meaning that video evidence of its existence is a miracle. I'm sorry Ibuki, but your air grab has a height requirement. Moving into Arcade Edition territory, this next bug is something I have no idea how to replicate, and to be honest, it looks like it would only happen if your system's GPU was failing severely. For some reason, Sakura's back throw causes the enemy to share the same coordinates as her, making it look like they've been fused together. Movement and attacks are still possible, but if the enemy inputs a throw, they can easily leave the map. The only instances of this bug I could find on YouTube contain zero information in their descriptions as to how it was initiated, but I suspect it's a PC exclusive issue. Street Fighter 4 lets you choose between various frame rate options within its graphics settings, and I believe one of these is what's causing the bug. A glitch this severe potentially would have ruined the game's competitive viability if it were easily performable on console, and in this hypothetical universe, Sakura would have definitely been banned. I also don't know if this is just me, but seeing the characters go out of bounds in the black void of doom kind of creeps me out. I don't know man, it just doesn't look right. It sucks that there's no consistent way to replicate this bug, as I would love to see what can be done with other fighters, but oh well, you'll live on in our hearts, Sakura. Going to the gas station provides us with the opportunity to not only get some tasty snacks on a long road trip, but also to beat the crap out of an unattended vehicle, and our good friend Ryu can interact with this beast of a machine in a very interesting way? For some reason, if Ryu jumps on the car, turns left, and performs his heavy shoryuken at a certain angle, the car's hurt box collides with his character model in an unintended way, leaving him stuck to shake the night away. As far as I know, there's no way to escape this outside of quitting, but if the timer hits 0, then the game is soft-locked. You're supposed to see the fighter's victory pose and score display when the clock strikes 0, but since Ryu is airborne, the mode is waiting for him to touch the ground before beginning his win animation. As we can see, this is literally impossible, so we're kind of stuck at a crossroads here. What I find interesting is how this bug only applies to Ryu. There has to be something about his DP's hitbox and trajectory that intersects those of the car in such a way that causes the game to break. I'm not sure if many people know about this bug because of how little coverage there is regarding Super Street Fighter 4's bonus stages, but it's now become one of my favorites. Just try to get home safe, Ryu. Getting to include Yang in the video makes me so happy, mainly because when I was an innocent child who didn't know what a glitch was, he was one of my favorite characters, but if I'd have seen this next exploit back then, I'd probably have my mental state shattered. Venturing back into desync territory now, if Yang activates his clone super and uses Palm Strike for Oki in such a way where the main Yang whiffs but the clone connects, they can interrupt the opponent's Wake Up Ultra. This leads to all sorts of crazy animations being applied to the initiating Yang, and I find this to be one of the funniest glitches in the game, mainly because it goes on for so long. What makes things even buggier are repeated backdashes, as you can have both characters fail to stay within the boundaries of the camera. It's pretty cool seeing the stages uninterrupted by the fights, but this eventually ends by itself, so if you want to gaze at the training stage's glory, you're gonna have to look elsewhere. Unlike the previous desyncs, this one is extremely easy to pull off in training mode with a dummy recording, and hell, you can even strike Yang as he's undergoing his exorcism. This glitch is a satisfying challenge, and I really enjoyed my time attempting it. If you thought that's all we'd be seeing of Yang's super, you had better think again, as there's another glitch he can do that is far more impactful, albeit very difficult. When fighting Cammy with Ultra 2, make sure to knock her down and then activate the super. At this point, you want to quickly jump forward and input Yang's dive kick. If Cammy activates Ultra 2 so that the clone's dive kick triggers the Ultra activation, the game will instantly softlock. If we can't play the game anymore, at least we can look at this awesome shot of Cammy, and it kind of looks like she's doing a really stylish JoJo pose. I believe this works because the game is caught in a repeating state where it tries to figure out if Yang's attack connected or not. On one hand, the primary Yang whiffed completely, so he should have missed, but on the other, the clone did make contact, so I guess it kind of hit? It's sort of like the Street Fighter version of a scientific number paradox, so I see why this softlock takes place. Unfortunately, despite testing on the various patches Arcade Edition received over its lifespan, I wasn't able to trigger the bug myself, even with the clone clearly making contact with Cammy. Even if you perform it with different Yang attacks, it's still likely to fail, and this tells me that the glitch's activation requires near frame-perfect timing. I tried multiple setups that I thought for sure would work, but none of them did, so I have to say that this is one of Arcade Edition's most challenging glitches. Analyzing the stronger twin now, Yoon brings his own style of glitch to Arcade Edition, and much to my pleasure, it's far easier to demonstrate. When doing battle with a worthy opponent, Yoon has the possibility of trading with his sweep. Normally, this would result in a standard knockdown, and the match would go on as intended, but for some reason, Yoon can combo after this if he's left standing. Crouching light kick is what I found to be most consistent, and even though I said it was far easier than the Cammy softlock like 15 seconds ago, it's still quite the challenge. If you're even slightly too late, the follow-up attack will whiff every time, so successfully inputting this bug demands brisk reactions, at least in theory. Because of how quick this situation is, you would need to visually process what's going on lightning fast, let alone input the next attack. But let's say that you do manage to pull all of this off. In that case, Yoon's Ultra 1 is great to use, since it's technically not a part of a combo, so there's no scaling. If Ultra isn't available, crouching light kick into DP works wonders, so Yoon has many options he can explore when deciding how to continue his offense. I don't see this exploit as being entirely realistic, but it's a good execution challenge in training mode. Now that we're discussing Ultra Street Fighter 4, let's look at the most colourful of the 4 Kings of Shadaloo. Although I've never mained Vega, I've always enjoyed watching high-level players make great use of his stylish animations, and in the 1.03 patch there's something quite concerning that he can do. After beginning his super but before transitioning into the grab animation, Vega must trade with the enemy. If this happens, they will become completely frozen during their attack, preventing them from playing the game. This can be fixed if Vega strikes them, but after everything seems to return to normal, Vega is actually now fully invincible. Since the super never truly connected, its invincibility frames didn't get the memo to go away, so they just kind of stay there. I definitely understand why Capcom removed this bug, but I'm not sure how it went unnoticed for so long. It's only natural for players to want to punish Vega's super before it makes contact with his opponent, but I guess this slipped through the cracks before release. Travelling slightly forward now to the 1.04 patch, I'm sure that many tournament players the world over remember having their eardrums blown out from issues surrounding screeching audio. I'm not sure how to replicate this, but to be honest, I'm not sure if I want to. Just take a listen.
Oh dear.
Yo!
Oh dear. Oh dear. Hold on.
Yeah, it's pretty bad, right? Underneath a video documenting this issue, a comment from famed UK commentator Logan Summer reveals that this was an Xbox 360 exclusive bug, and I don't even know what could cause it, but I'm gonna try to guess. The glitch seems to begin as a new round is loading in, and at first I thought it was an issue with an overheating console. However, after seeing numerous comments from players who all ran into the bug, I believe the chances of every one of their consoles overheating is too unlikely to be true. I then thought that the Xbox 360 itself was having issues streaming game data, but as I'm unable to verify which players owned the Ultra Disc and which owned the digital upgrade, this is frankly impossible to confirm. Plus, no previous revision of Street Fighter 4 on the various Xbox 360 models had this glitch, so I don't think the console is the problem. Rather, I believe the glitch's catalyst to be a defective line of code within the title update file itself. There's gotta be something in here that causes the bug to occur in such a way that prevents it from happening on the PS3 or PC. I really wish I had further information, but I wasn't able to find anything concrete. It's not all negative though, as we've been blessed with some amazing reactions from commentators. In its launch year of 2014, Ultra Street Fighter 4 was slated for release on the then brand new PS4, and the world rejoiced at the news. Releasing Ultra on a next-gen system while we waited for the launch of Street Fighter 5 was a great move by Capcom, but unfortunately the studio they outsourced the project to didn't do a great job, just to put things nicely. For this reason, I'll be covering a group of bugs in this one section, so let's start with more audio troubles. Character intros have obviously missing sound effects.
An interesting opponent.
And stages having background noises that are mixed way louder than everything else are commonplace in Ultra's PS4 port. But at least these aren't game-breaking. This next glitch though, yeah, I don't know. What? I have no clue under the sun why or how or when this takes place, but it seems that players were able to cause their console to undergo cardiac arrest during combo trials. It seems that the poor PS4 is struggling hard to render character animations, and it's been reported that this bug would eventually cause the game to crash. Special moves were affected too, as Guile's Sonic Boom and Ultra 2 have corrupted or missing VFX. I've also seen recordings of the input reader failing to detect EX moves, as well as players losing points for winning online matches. Get this Ken player earns 49 player points, boosting their total to 789. Seems normal. But as soon as they find the next match, it's somehow been reduced to 612? This E-Honda player also got screwed over, as although they had 1,807 player points when doing battle with DeCapri, and even though they won, their next match displayed less points. I could go on for eons about how fundamentally broken the PS4 port was before it got patched, but I think you get the point by now. There are some games that make you think, how was this released? Surely the testers noticed these issues during development, right? And Ultra PS4 is one of them. It's good now, but yeah, when it came out, it was rough. Before we wrap up, I thought it would be fun to revisit some of Omega Street Fighter 4's glitches. With how many jaw-dropping and downright outlandish new additions are in this mode, it's home to a whole host of new exploits, but just like before, we'll cover some of them in this one section in the interest of time. Hooray for desyncs, because T-Hawk's new cinematic command grab can lead to some interesting animations when comboed into after a focus attack. I love how the enemy tumbles in place, as it makes me think of what a drunk turtle would look like. Ibuki's air throw returns with a vengeance, as when performed close to the ground, she'll become stuck in a perpetual upward stretch. This puts the no damage bug to shame, as at least she still gets to play when initiating that. This, on the other hand? Yeah, it's pretty bad. Balrog's focus attack will fail to connect against cornered enemies at point blank range, presumably due to a change in hitbox, so if you want to use a level 3 focus attack to continue the combo, you are out of luck. Abel's charge tackle can freeze him in place if you cancel the move right before the cancel window becomes active. Even if you're just one frame shy of the actual cancel timing, Abel will be totally unresponsive to your inputs, so I hope you don't do this on accident. Finally, I stumbled across a video of Cody's forward throw placing the enemy behind him. The description claims this only works on PC, and I assume it's due to VSync, as Street Fighter 4's move properties can break when this feature is turned on. With my hands destroyed and my eyes melted, I can confidently say that experimenting with Street Fighter 4's various glitches was heaps of fun, even if I couldn't execute all of them myself. Once again, please check the description for a full list of credits, as I couldn't have made this video without other YouTube accounts documenting their findings, so a massive shout out goes to them all. If I had to choose one glitch as my overall favourite, I would probably go with Ryu on the bonus stage, as it's a nice break from the usual types of desyncs and animation quirks. All of the glitches are great, don't get me wrong, but there's something about seeing a stoic Japanese martial artist unsure of how gravity works that really appeals to me. If you have access to a console or emulator and the game's various update files, I would suggest trying these bugs out for yourself, as they can be fun to kill some time with. Just make sure to not softlock the game too much. If you can't do it for yourself, then do it for Cammy. Okay, if you made it all the way to the end of the video, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you and your time, and I hope you had a lot of fun. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.